When you come to Kvarner, treat yourself to an experience you will remember. Enjoy the luxurious ambience. Experience superior service. Indulge in endless pleasures. The pearl of the tourism offer in the pearl of the Adriatic. Liburnia, Hotels and Villas.
Welcome along to Brands Hatch, where the American Speedfest 10 is well underway. We've had a EuroNASCAR Pro race here today in these 20+ degree temperatures at the Kentish circuit. We now have the third round of the EuroNASCAR 2 season about to get started here at the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit. 1.2 miles in length, nice short little ball ring of a racing circuit for our drivers this weekend, and always compelling to watch the stock cars go around this little circuit. 1.9 kilometers the length in European terms. 38 laps the race distance for EuroNASCAR Pro. It'll be 31 laps for EuroNASCAR 2, of course. But still, the most laps that EuroNASCAR 2 will do in any individual race this year. Most of our circuits fall somewhere around the 2.5 mile, 4 kilometer region. But this circuit is significantly shorter, but very action-packed each and every time we take these cars to this circuit. This is the 10th American Speedfest, which has been an absolute banner part of the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series for really as long as well, for a decade, certainly. And even before that, when the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series was a support race rather than the lead event here at Brands, the NASCARs became steadily more and more popular, and the decision to run an American NASCAR-themed festival at this circuit only seemed natural, and it has gone down a treat ever since the event was founded. EuroNASCAR Pro have already raced today, of course. EuroNASCAR 2 about to get going for 31 laps of racing. It will be Alberto Nasca on pole position. Now, if you were watching qualifying earlier, you'll know that Paul Dufresne set the fastest lap of anybody. You may also remember that Paul slowed down at one point approaching Clark Curve, and he rather hindered Gil Linster. Linster ended up spinning Paul Dufresne, and his bonnet was up for a lap of the qualifying session over his windscreen. Not comfortable for Gil Linster, but since Paul Dufresne slowed on the racing line, which caused that incident, it was decided that Dufresne's fastest lap time be deleted. Therefore, he starts in 4th place. There you see the country music stage at this year's American Speedfest, which is something of a new addition. There's always been a little bit of live music, but very much has become a bigger part of American Speedfest this year. You've seen we've got numerous amusements for families. We've got the live music. You've got all sorts of American cars, road and racing on display. The prototype, the initial prototype version of the NASCAR G56 car, the Le Mans project, is here on display. You've got car clubs from around the UK and Europe bringing their Americana to the circuit. And of course, you've got the racing, you've got the 2 EuroNASCAR categories, and numerous other championships in keeping with the aesthetic of American Speedfest. They just had a all Corvette race out on the circuit, a Corvette anniversary race taking it to the track. The NASCAR Whelen Euro Series will be sending the cars out onto the circuit momentarily. You see the countdown to the start command just 11.5 minutes away, so it won't be too long before these cars are A, out on track, and B, rolling on the formation lap. And certainly intrigued to see what Vladimir Osiortsis is capable of in this race. He will be starting in 3rd. However, he was only taking place, or only took part in half of qualifying earlier today. That's largely because his car broke down in EuroNASCAR 2 qualifying. It then broke down once more on the first lap, no less, of the EuroNASCAR Pro Race. So I'm sure the Academy Motorsport team have been hard at work, making sure that Siortzis' car is ready to roll again for this race. He is the EuroNASCAR 2 championship leader after taking 2 wins at Valencia. Valencia very much seems to be the Siortzis ring, the Vladimir Siortzis home circuit, or home away from home at least, because he has taken 3 wins in EuroNASCAR competition, and all 3 of them have come at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo, 2 of which came last month. So what Siortzis will be keen to do is get a win on the board elsewhere. He would like to try and get a win, I'm sure, at the Brands Hatch Circuit. I just saw Siortzis' car rolling down the pit lane, so that's good to see. Vladimir Siortzis is running, which is the most important thing. He's 5th in the queue of cars there, just behind one of the Cal Racing entries. There will be a few home nation drivers for the fans in attendance to support in this race. Jack Davidson, who a great many of the fans here at Brands Hatch will be familiar with from Mini Challenge. Davidson moving up to EuroNASCAR this year. He's starting from the 5th row of the grid, and he was spectacular, very exciting to watch at the season opener in Valencia. Didn't quite get all the luck in the world in Valencia, but he was very fun to watch. We will look forward to seeing how he progresses. You've also got Gordon Barnes, a 2-time champion in the regularity version of EuroNASCAR, the EuroNASCAR Club Challenge, where consistent lap times wins you events. That typically runs on a Friday before the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series racing gets underway in earnest. Gordon Barnes, a 2-time champ there, and he's finally getting to go racing wheel to wheel for the first time in these cars. Something that I know he's been aspiring to do for a long time, and he's very excited to finally be in that position. So good job to Gordon Barnes just for getting out there in the new promotion entry, the number 99 car. He and Tobias Downhauer splitting the driving time in that car. Patrick Schauber in the 27. Patrick was very fun to watch in the race at the first race in particular at Valencia. Had a great wheel-to-wheel scrap for most of the race with Martin Dubek. Martin Dubek, incidentally, will be starting from the outside of the front row alongside Alberto Nasca on pole. Vladimir Siortzis will be looking to try and tiptoe past Dubek in the early stages. If you're watching the EuroNASCAR Pro Race earlier on, you may have heard at the end of the race, Liam Haseman saying, you know what, I quite like the idea of being on the inside of row 2, more so than being on the outside of the first row. And Siortzis will be hoping that that thinking proves to be accurate, and he'll look to try and sneak by Martin Dubek. Paul Giffreau in the number 3 car, he's on the second row of the grid as well. Paul Giffreau, who had the fastest time in EuroNASCAR 2 qualifying. He will be very keen indeed to trump his earlier performance in quali, or rather revenge the loss of his earlier performance in quali, given he is down there in 4th. Despite having set the fastest time, that lap time was deleted because of the incident with Gil Linster. Hence, he finds himself down in 4th. Patrick Schauber and Gil Linster, incidentally, are on that 3rd row of the grid. Certainly, both drivers well within podium contention. We've got the return of Melvin de Groot as well, 7th on the grid. Melvin wasn't with us at the season opening Valencia weekend. And Claudio Remeggio Capelli is 8th on the grid. But we now head to pole with Andre.
Thank you so much. But before we start the interview, Adam, we had again a show-up between the EuroNASCAR 2 race, the 2 EuroNASCAR races. You are now officially Adam the Weatherman Weller, so stick to that, please. Okay, I'm here now with the pole setter. We didn't talk because we thought Paul Giffreau would be on pole position. No, it's you. What are you thinking about that?
Well, that wasn't expected. I mean, a lot unexpected, because I didn't expect to go that fast in qualifying, and I didn't expect that all the other drivers go that fast in qualifying. So I don't know if this year the track was faster or we just improved, all of us, but we were half a second faster than last year. and Giuffre this year is going very, very fast. That was unfortunate what happened in qualifying. It was just a race incident, and, you know, a bit of luck on my side is it's always good to see, especially after last year where the luck, you know, was not on my side. I hope this year to be luckier.
Last year it was your first time you were fully focusing on racing, improving your skills in EuroNASCAR. This year, do you enjoy more the show, the fans and the crowd we have here at this amazing American Speed Fest?
I mean, I always enjoy everything because this is a show that you see only in NASCAR Championship, and that's wonderful. It's something that I was not used to do before, and this is just amazing. But, you know, when I'm focused on racing, I just focus on racing. You know, during the race, I just think about the race, nothing else, and the cameras. I always think about the cameras because without cameras, I would not be able to race. Yeah, my mindset did not change. I always enjoy Brands Hatch because before the race, I go around and see all the cars. That's amazing, but 2 hours before the race, it's just the race for me.
Grazie mille, good luck, have fun, and we go back to our weatherman.
Can I say hi? Hey, I just wanted to say hi to all my fans, to all my followers, to my beautiful wife, which is watching me now. Ciao ragazzi, ciao amore, ciao a tutta la mia famiglia, ci vediamo dopo la gara.
All right, now back to Adam. Thank you.
I love the gloves on Alberto NASCAR. It looks like he's got superpowers with those circular patterns on his gloves. Yes, I will accept the title of Weatherman Weller. I've been called far worse. I think that could be the name of my my future Anchorman parody, Weatherman instead of Anchorman. We will have the start command in about 4.5 minutes' time. Great to hear from Alberto NASCAR there. He alluded to not having all the luck in the world here last year. Of course, he was leading before a late overtime meant Liam Hasemans took the win. Let's go to Martin Dubeck with Andre Viegold.
Thank you so much. Again, pulling double duty. Martin Dubeck, driver of the number 7 Hendrix Motorsport car. How do you feel today?
A little bit tired. Drive both categories. It's really hard, so I'm a little bit tired. But now I will do my best for the podium and for win. During the quali, I did a big mistake. In the last corner of my fastest lap. So I think that it should be faster. And like I thought, I will do my best.
In the EuroNASCAR Pro Race, you had to go to the pits. You had some issues with the car. What happened there?
Obviously, I don't know. Something wrong with gearbox. I could not shift third gear, so I have to go in, and we had to change the gearbox. So hopefully, I hope that now it'll be okay. Everything.
Thank you so much. Good luck. Back to Adam.
There we go. So start command in just about 3 minutes. You see drivers already in the cars. They're not wasting any time. They want to go racing as soon as possible. We look forward to Grand Marshal for this race, Jimmy Small, giving the command to get the engines fired in just a few moments' time. You see the Cal Racing 88 car there. Of course, Cal Racing took a win earlier on in the EuroNASCAR Pro Race with that 54 car that Alberto NASCAR is now driving. So they'll be hoping to hit victory lane twice this weekend. But they've got that number 7 Martin Dubeck entry from Hendrix Motorsport right alongside them. So nothing is a guarantee going into this race. They were a little bit conservative, I felt, at times in Pro. We'll see what EuroNASCAR 2 is like. Let's go back down to Andre.
Yes, we're here with Vladimiros Tsotis. You had some issues in the EuroNASCAR Pro Race. Can you tell us what happened there and if it's fixed?
Yeah, they start from EuroNASCAR Pro qualification. Then, as you saw, I didn't manage to finish the EuroNASCAR 2 qualification. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to find the problem. We find something, we fix it. But at the end, it seems like it was something behind the throttle pedal, which caused me also the EuroNASCAR Pro Race run. Anyway, I don't have to say anything for it. I can't describe what happened today, but yeah, it's a new day already for me from now. So yeah, keep pushing.
All right, thank you so much. And I have to get used to that Vladimiros is always stealing my microphone. Back to you, Adam.
I like it. You know, nothing wrong with petty theft on a Saturday afternoon. I think we will soon have national anthems. We'll have to be careful not to talk over those, but we will, of course, have the countdown command. And I believe the US anthem has actually already been played, so we are in the midst of anthems at the moment. I think maybe the British anthem has been done too, but you see the number 3 car getting ready to go. I'm excited to see what Paul Dufresne does with this race. He was pretty good here at Brands Hatch last year as well. He was overall not quite as high up the order as he is this season, but he really was showing some fun racecraft at Brands last year. Start command, though, is about to go off. Let's go.
Amazing that. When our Grand Marshal will be issuing those words. Good to
so
see.
Now it will be 3 minutes.
A good
3 minutes
representation
panel, so in 2 minutes
from the NASCAR contingent over here from America. And Matt, just while we've got a couple of minutes, it's time to run us through the grid.
We have now heard that it's 3 minutes until we fire the engines.
2 minutes from now.
Ah, there you go. Longer than most Green Day songs, that. Yeah, so we will soon hear the start command from Jimmy Small, who is the Senior Director of International Business Operations for NASCAR, and I'm sure that's a job that gets a little more complicated but a little more rewarding with each passing year. In NASCAR's 75th anniversary year, I'd say the international reach of the sport is starting to hit new heights. Of course, they've always had the Pinty Series in Canada. There's always been a strong NASCAR national scene in Mexico. That is now complemented in South America by the Brazilian Series, which is new for 2023. But this, of course, being the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series, I believe the only pan-continental NASCAR series out there. And certainly a series that has established itself firmly in the hearts and minds of the public around the various venues that host EuroNASCAR, but also as a valuable commodity within the NASCAR family in this 75th anniversary year. There is our winner from the first race earlier on for EuroNASCAR Pro, Jimmy Okoli, keeping an eye on things, keeping a watching brief over not just some of his competitors, because there are a few doing double duty in EuroNASCAR 2 and EuroNASCAR Pro, but I'm sure he's also keeping an eye on Alberto Nasca, just to make sure his car comes back in one piece, although Jimmy has had a couple of tangles already this year, so I'm sure there's a little bit of tit for tat going on there, but what a strong team that is. The 54 Cal Racing crew, Alberto Nasca and Jimmy Okoli, two of the quickest drivers in the paddock, sharing
Drivers, start your engine!
That was very good. Hats off, Jimmy Small. That was the best drivers start your engines that I've heard in my time at EuroNASCAR. That was passionate, enthusiastic. A lot of energy went into that. I dare suggest that might have been part of the agreement when he was asked to fly to the UK. Can I do the start command? Yes, Jimmy. Okay, right, I'll go. And sure enough, that was a very good performance from Jimmy Small. Doff of the cap to you, sir. Excellent. So then, Alberto Nasca is about to lead the field away on the first of 2 formation laps. And the safety car has left, so we will now get them rolling. It is Alberto Nasca who leads the field away. Will be an interesting race, this, at the front of the order. Martin Dubek certainly wants to try and get a win on the board. Nasca and Dubek, your front row of the grid. The Hendricks Motorsport number 7 car, the 2021 EuroNASCAR 2 champion, the most recent champion on this grid. Vladimiros Siortzis on row 2 alongside Paul Dufresne. Row 3, Patrick Schauber, the young Austrian racer, will be looking to try and wiggle his way towards a podium ahead of Gil Linster, starting in 6th position. Melvin de Groot returning after missing Valencia. Great to see him back, and he's on the 4th row alongside Claudio Remeggio Capelli. Jack Davidson, his first time in EuroNASCAR on his home turf. He'll be looking to work his way up the order. He's alongside Riccardo Romagnoli. And just to say, Romagnoli, we mentioned it briefly in the EuroNASCAR Pro Race. He was initially deducted 10 points from the EuroNASCAR 2 season because of changing tyres under Parc Fermé. That has been reviewed and then checked. And now everything has worked out a different way. So Romagnoli is no longer losing points. And that's a good thing for his championship, I'm sure. Okay, so the Tesla leading the field around. They'll give way shortly to the Chevrolets, the Fords, the Toyota, and the EuroNASCAR FJ of Vladimiros Tsiotsis. Strong field of cars, 23 on the grid. We've run you through the top 10. I'll quickly run you through a few of the others before we get going. Roberto Benedetti is on row 6 in the 88 alongside Thomas Tuffel in the 34. Nick Schneider in the 46 is next up, but we seem to have an issue here. Everyone has stacked up behind, I believe that's the 48, is it? It might be the 48. It's one of the... Oh no, it's a 46 of Nick Schneider. That's a shame. So Nick Schneider having an issue there. He was due to start 13th alongside Mikael Blekemolen. And has he now got the car going? Not yet. This might be a delayed start because, as far as I know, at least a few of the cars are still parked. Some of the cars still working their way around the circuit. If everyone is at least rolling, we'll probably get this race underway. Looking for a bulletin on the timing screen. Nothing has been suggested, so it looks like we are going to go racing in spite of the issues on the formation lap. Is that a sign of things to come for EuroNASCAR 2 as the race gets underway? With a little bit of a shaky circumstance. We are rolling, and it is Alberto Nasca on the inside of the front row as we get this race started, but I think he may have got a tag from behind there from Vladimiros Tsiotsis. He got very snaky and shaky into the first corner. He's still side by side with Martin Dubek as they run towards Paddock Hill Bend. Vladimiros Tsiotsis is there in 3rd place. Paul Dufresne is still in 4th position despite Gil Linster trying to get up into 5th place. Get up into 4th place, I should say. Linster started 6th. He's managed to find his way around Patrick Schauber, but it is Alberto Nasca who leads the way on lap 1 of 31. Dufresne there cutting the grass a little bit through Surtees for the first time. Everyone picking their way through. I'm just keeping an eye on the timing screen at the end of this lap to ensure that all 23 cars took the start. 2 of the transponders have stopped working on cars 18 and 72. That's Claudio Remeggio Capelli and also the 72 Mikael Blekemolen. Side by side, Gil Linster to the inside of Paul Dufresne, and through goes Linster. That might feel like a bit of a just dessert for Gil Linster after he lost quite a bit of qualifying time in that skirmish with Paul Dufresne in the quali session earlier on. They only had 10 minutes to set their fastest lap times earlier. And they run through the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit, already completing the 2nd lap in less than 2 minutes. The times will be in the high 40s, low 50s all through the race. It looked like we might have had someone in the pit lane. Just going to need to have a check of that. Whom was it? One of the cars falling through the order. That's Claudio Remeggio Capelli's car, but that's because the transponder isn't working. So lap 3 of 31. Alberto Nasca leads over Vladimiros Tsiotsis, because Tsiotsis has gotten through into 2nd place there. I was trying to identify which car was in the pits, so my apologies for that. Claudio Remeggio Capelli. Oh, we have a car slowing. Is that Nick Schneider again? Yes, Nick Schneider hasn't come around, and I think that was him parked, or at least slowing down significantly on the apex of Clark and Clearways. And that is a big shame for Nick Schneider, whose race only goes from bad to worse. Didn't even get to take the green flag before things started to go a little bit wrong, but things going right for Vladimir Osiortsis, now up to second position. NASCAR it is who leads from Siortsis, Dubek, then Gil Linster, who's on the verge of a podium already. I think the pace out of that 50 car, we're now just starting to see the true extent of it, as we can also see the 46 car parked up on the inside of Clark Curve. Hopefully that's judged to be out of harm's way. Rarely do you see a car find that particular piece of grass, especially in the dry conditions, as Alberto NASCAR. Those lockups can't be made very often. Remember, in theory, unless the tyres are excessively damaged and or punctured, these tyres have to run again tomorrow in the 4th round of the EuroNASCAR 2 season. Safety car, though, has been deployed. So safety car is out. And that is to try and rescue the Schneider car, which I think on the face of it is a very wise decision, rather than leaving that car where it was. Like I said, it's not really in the direct firing line, but you could also conceive of a situation where that car would end up in the firing line. I think smart thinking from race control to get the safety car out early and get everything recovered. It is just lap 5 of the race then, and a pause has been thrown out there. And of course, what this does as well, with a 2x2 restart due once this race resumes, that's going to mean that Vladimir Osiortsis gets the opportunity to get alongside Alberto NASCAR, but it also means that Martin Dubek has the opportunity to potentially follow NASCAR's line through Paddock Hill Bend and sneak back by Vladimir Osiortsis. That could be very compelling. I believe just 22 of the 23 cars took the start, unfortunately, so that does mean that somebody hasn't been able to take the start. I'm not quite sure whom we are missing, but one of the drivers has not been able to take the start. Alberto NASCAR, however, is your race leader. You can see there the recovery truck already en route. The recovery team here at Brands Hatch are searingly efficient sometimes. And no doubt they will get this race resumed as quickly as humanly possible. So the championship top 2 are your top 2 in this race as well. Coming out of the Valencia round, it was 80 points. The maximum score for Vladimir Osiortsis after those 2 wins. Alberto NASCAR was 10 back on 70 points. Paul Dufresne also very much establishing himself as a potential championship contender, 3rd on 68 points. But at this early stage of the season, and with double points on offer at the season closer, we really can't make any judgments just yet. We've seen some mighty comebacks when double points come into play in EuroNASCAR seasons gone by. So it is Alberto NASCAR for now who will just be taking a breather. I'm sure a lot of these drivers will be trying to get as much air in the car as possible, because even when these things are idling, the temperatures in the cockpit only go up, and that can be a very uncomfortable experience. And I understand some good sleuthing here from Razor from the world of EuroNASCAR, a part of the EuroNASCAR social media team. He says Max Mason in number 1 is the car that didn't start, and obviously that makes a lot of sense because Advait Deodar did not get to the finish in the early EuroNASCAR Pro race in that #1 machine, had an incident at the final corner. And unfortunately, the Indian driver based in London with significant damage. Hopefully they can get that #1 car back out there, but we are not going to see it today at the very least. So then the safety car should do at least one more lap. We'll get to see the progress of the recovery here as they come through Clark and Clearways. If we get the camera shot that shows the overall circuit, we should see that as they come out of the last corner. A good look at where the tow truck and the stricken #46 car are. Although not quite getting a look at that, so hopefully it shouldn't be too long. Of course, at this stage of the race, I don't think Alberto Nasca minds a safety car, but he'll be thinking back to last year, back to when the NASCAR overtime was declared at the end of the Sunday race, and it ended up costing him the win because Liam Hazelman's moved up past Dubeck at Druids, then past Alberto Nasca going through Clark Curve, and that was Liam Hazelman's first win in EuroNASCAR 2. So NASCAR's fine with a safety car now, I'm sure. Later on, I don't think he'd appreciate it. I appreciate that slide, though, from Melvin de Groot. Very nice. Consummate showman as ever. And you see behind him Jack Davidson. He's moved up to 8th position. Thomas Tefel as well. He's managed to get himself into the top 10. So a good few movements up the order. And as you can see, the lights have gone out in the safety car. Safety car has been declared as in this lap. And we're in 2x2 formation. Ergo, we are about to go racing once again. Oh, apologies for that. My throat giving way a little bit there. But we are about to go racing once again on what will be lap 10 of the race. So effectively, what was a 31 lap race will now be 21. We're in 2x2 formation once again then, and it's Alberto Nasca with the inside of the front row once more, but he's got Vladimir Osiortis alongside him this time. Martin Dubeck, who started second, is now in third. Let's see how this one goes then. We are rolling and racing once again as they approach Paddock Hill Bend. Is it going to be Nasca that leads? Yes, it is. And Siortis not quite able to hold on to him around the outside. That means Martin Dubeck could have an opportunity as they approach Druids. But no, because Siortis got quite the run up Halewoods Hill. And is it all line astern? Well, no, not in the slightest. Gil Linster gets himself up into third place there. So Martin Dubeck, having tried to challenge for second place, ends up down in fourth. There's some panel bashing further back as well. I think that was one of the Cal Racing cars potentially having a little bit of an argy-bargy session. In fact, it may have been the 34 car of Thomas Tefel in a little bit of contact there further back in the pack. But certainly everyone racing hard as we go back to green flag conditions. And Vladimir Osiortis, he's sensing his opportunities here. He didn't get to show the full deck of cards in qualifying, of course, and here he comes for the race lead. He's up the inside as they approach Druids Bend for the 11th time in the race, and he's through into the lead. Vladimir Osiortis made that look very easy. Gets past Alberto Nasca. The Cypriot driver leads. The driver who has only ever won at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo in Valencia leads at Brands Hatch. Exciting stuff then for Siortis. He will be looking to ride this wave all the way to the finish, but Alberto Nasca will be hoping to get the opportunity to get through. Of course, Nasca's already locked up a couple of times in this race. We've seen that. Maybe he's got a bit of a flat spot on the number 54 car. 5-second penalties for false starts for Romagnoli in the 65. And the 48 of Jack Davidson. That's a huge shame for Jack Davidson. Davidson, who is the home driver here. He's up there in 8th place after a good start, but it turns out the start was not considered legal. And unfortunately, Davidson is going to lose out with a 5-second penalty there. So there is the confirmation once again, 48 and 65, 5-second penalties for false starts. Huge shame for both of those parties, Romagnoli and indeed Jack Davidson. Alberto Nasca, though, is really watching Vladimiros Tsiotsis disappear. I was saying that I'm sure Alberto Nasca would want to try and pursue Tsiotsis. He's trying his darndest, but it seems as though Tsiotsis has the race pace advantage, at least for now. Of course, the question mark comes later on, potentially on Sunday, as to quite how much tyre is left on the number 5 car in the EuroNASCAR 2 race on Sunday. But for now, it all seems to be coming up Tsiotsis. Alberto Nasca already almost a second back, and that was 1 lap ago. I dare suggest the gap has gone out to up and over 1 second this time by. It is indeed at 1.2 seconds, and Gil Linster is just under half a second back from the 54 car. Paul Dufresne is up into 5th place. He was briefly behind Patrick Schauber. Schauber managed to get up to 5th place in the restart, but he's now demoted back to 6th position, as Dufresne, the fastest man in qualifying, will look to try and at least get himself back into his number sake. He'd like to get the number 3 onto position number 3, but if better is available, then better he will take. Lap 14 going on to lap 15 then, and Vladimiros Tsiotsis still extending that advantage, 1.4 seconds now. Nasca, though, seems to be just about in control of the situation versus Gil Linster. That gap is fluctuating only by fractions of a second, sticking around that half-second mark. A bit of a tennis match in terms of the lap deltas each time. There is Davidson in the 48, and he's running down in 8th place, unfortunately, with that penalty. There's Melvin de Groot taking a slightly wider berth around the Clearways and Clark Curve section of the circuit. Interesting take. Maybe he's decided that line is superior. Patrick Schauber there. Puff of smoke from his car. That's locking up once again. Somebody's gone off momentarily there onto the gravel. No one stuck in the gravel, but someone certainly had a little bit of a moment there. I don't think any positions have changed hands. De Groot with a better run through Graham Hill Bend than Patrick Schauber, certainly. It seems like Schauber might be getting a little bit scruffy, and Alberto Nasca there was under a lot of pressure from Gil Linster. We saw that just at the start of that last shot. Linster is right there with Alberto Nasca. I think maybe Nasca might have been the driver that kicked up the dirt, because he was the only driver in the top 5 to lap over 50 seconds. So I think that puff of gravel that we saw at Paddock Hill Bend a lap ago was because of Alberto Nasca, and the gap between Nasca and Linster has gone well down, as once again we get a little look at that battle for second place. There it is, Nasca and Linster. With less than half the race remaining, Vladimiros Tsiotsis has built a gap of 2.1 seconds, and I suspect that much like Gianmarco Ercole before him in the pro race, Tsiotsis will be happy to just maintain that gap and continue on in the race lead, whereas Alberto Nasca is on struggle street here. He's, I think, facing the pressure, feeling the pressure from Linster. The gap is back out to 3.5 tenths this time by. It's not going to take much more than a small error for Nasca to be not just challenged for second place, but also potentially to risk falling off the podium, because second, third, fourth and fifth, NASCAR, Linster, Dubek, Dufresne, all in one long train. A little bit of a gap back to sixth place and Patrick Schauber. Schauber, though, himself is now got a little more gap over Melvin de Groot. Linster close once again as they come down the main straight towards the first corner. Paddock Hill Bend once again. Nothing can be done on that occasion by Linster, but he is closer once more as they approach Druids Bend. Definitely got a better run through Paddock Hill. Now Alberto NASCAR. Just looks like NASCAR's not entirely happy with the balance of the car, whether that is a flat-spotted tyre from the earlier lockups or something slightly more complex. One can only speculate. Alberto, of course, being a content creator extraordinaire, we will soon find out exactly what's going on there. But Alberto NASCAR really facing pressure here. Of course, the moment that he and Gil Linster go side by side and start tussling, that's going to give an opportunity to Martin Dubek inevitably. As soon as you take any corner side by side, you lose tenths, you might even lose a second. You can see that Dubek has some serious pace. His last time around was actually the best lap of the race so far for the number 7, a 49.621. So Martin Dubek is actually ramping up the pace here and starting to challenge these two. The EuroNASCAR 2 champion of 2021 is following on at a very close radius. Of course, his Hendricks Motorsports stablemate is ahead of him in the form of Gil Linster, in the same car that 2022 EuroNASCAR 2 champ Liam Hasemans is running in the Pro class. Dubek straying much further wide as they go through Paddock Hill Bend, and Alberto NASCAR is really starting to feel it now. He goes defensive into Druids Bend. He definitely knows that he's under pressure. Gil Linster has a look to the inside at Graham Hill momentarily, but NASCAR's at a point now where he really has to defend at the end of these long straights into these braking zones. And that's uncomfortable. Once you get to that position, it can be hard to get yourself back out of it as Dubek dives up the inside of Gil Linster. And well, perhaps as anticipated, once NASCAR and Linster started to fight each other, it's opened the doors to Martin Dubek. We were 3 wide there as we cut away, and Dubek, just holding on to the inside, does take third position. Thought Linster was going to stick around the outside there, but he couldn't quite do it. And now, of course, this is giving Alberto NASCAR an opportunity to get a few car lengths and get out of Dodge. Gil Linster down to 4th position, then Dubek up to 3rd place. Dubek, who, lest we forget, started on the front row of this grid, so anything less than a podium, I think he'll feel hard done by. Paul Dufresne, who, if his lap time hadn't been disallowed, would have been pole sitter. And his lap time wasn't illegal in any way, shape or form, but he was penalised for impeding Gil Linster. He would like a podium out of this, of course. He would have liked to have started from pole and driven away, but the cards did not fall that way for him. At the front of the order, Siortsis, the Cypriot, is 3.5 seconds clear now. Know that his successes are a great source of pride in the motorsport community in Cyprus. They've seen him win at Valencia 3 times. He's just on 7 laps away from taking the win here at Brands Hatch. He'll start lap 24 this time by. Martin Dubek, I don't know if he's counting the laps, but he's certainly watching the mirror as he crosses the line. Linster and Dufresne. Neither driver losing time to Dubek in the slightest. Alberto NASCAR, I think, may now be in a position where he can not resting his laurels by any means, but 1.4 seconds over Dubek is a fairly comfortable margin around a circuit where hundredths make a difference, tenths make a difference, yes, but even the hundredths of a second can make a difference around such a short circuit. To make up 1.3 seconds in what should be about 5 more minutes of racing would be very difficult for Dubek, and even harder with Linster and Dufresne very much on his tail. Saying that, Dubek took 3 tenths out of NASCAR on the previous lap. The gap is down from 1.3 to 1.093. And again, Dubek sets the personal best lap of the race for himself, a 49.536. Of course, the fastest laps in this race will determine the grid for the race that follows on Sunday. Right now, Vladimir Osiotsis is due to start on pole position. He's got the fastest lap of anyone out there, a 49.377 for Vladimir Osiotsis. Everyone across the line once again. No changes in the order. Of course, 2 drivers with penalties, one of them being Jack Davidson, the home circuit hero. As it stands, I think he would still finish 10th place. Riccardo Romagnoli, of course, in the 65 car, he'd lose a couple of places. I think he'd fall as far as maybe 12th position from his current place of 10th. As we watch this fight between the 88 and the 66, this is Benedetti up against Dombrowski. Benedetti goes very, very wide indeed. Roberto Benedetti rather creating his own line through Druids there, high and wide, and well, to be fair to him, it did work. Thomas Dombrowski, the French rookie, who is certainly striving to make improvements week in, week out. He hasn't really shown the potential that he gave us at the Valencia races, but of course the Valencia races were in EuroNASCAR 2, rather action-packed and safety car heavy. So it's a rather different set of circumstances here at Brands Hatch Indy Circuit. Don't believe Dombrowski has driven here before either. He will be starting lap 28 this time, and we've had dramas there. Thomas Tuffel has stopped at Graham Hill Bend, and he's made contact with someone else there. We saw one of the other cars limping with damage. I think that may have been Riccardo Romagnoli. And we have a full course yellow declared. So yellow flags now fly around the circuit, and everyone has to slow down, adhere to a speed limit. Mikael Bleekemolen has damage. Is he then the other party? Yes, he is. He's the other party in the incident with Thomas Tuffel. Riccardo Romagnoli is still circulating, so it looks as though it was just Bleekemolen and Thomas Tuffel who have had a moment there at Graham Hill Bend. In fact, no, there is another damaged car, and it is Romagnoli. So it was Romagnoli who we saw damaged earlier on. I just didn't spot that there was a third car involved. And okay, so we had separate incidents going on. Claudio Remeggio Capelli and Mikael Bleekemolen also having an incident together. So drama, and a little bit more drama, all happening at once. And the full course yellow has just become a safety car. And if you're new here, well, that means we're going to go to overtime. A 2-lap shootout to determine who is going to be our race winner. Much like the NASCAR Cup Series, safety car finishes very rarely happen. Although sometimes here, I think if things get a bit too crazy, we are inclined to stop it under safety car, but I don't think this will be the case on this occasion. I think we are going to potentially get an overtime. Although I do note that we have medical vehicle on circuit, so that could change things. We'll have to wait and see. But if we do go back to racing, that's going to be heart-in-the-mouth stuff for Vladimir Osiortsis. Because, of course, he had a massive lead. A nice cushion over Alberto NASCAR in second, and that will all be snapped out to nothing. That would certainly be a compelling last couple of laps, and understand that Thomas Tuffel spun on his own rather than being collected by anybody. Obviously, we saw that Romagnoli had damage. So Romagnoli picked up damage somewhere as well, but the actual spin for Thomas Tuffel wasn't anyone else's fault but himself. We are on lap 30 of 31. Vladimir Osiortsis will be as eager as anyone to hear what happens next. I haven't had confirmation yet of a overtime procedure. That would normally be the case. It looks to me as though Thomas Tuffel has just started to creep the car forward, so he could well be all right, and just trying to recover the car. I understand from Andre Viegold that Tuffel seems okay, but we wait to see what the next steps are here. And oh, there is the moment for Thomas Tuffel. And okay, so Romagnoli obtained his damage simply by going rally crossing. And Dombrovski, he did very well to avoid that big moment there. And Tuffel's car is now towed away from the scene. We're now on lap 31 of 31. And the question remains regarding the overtime, whether or not we're going to get one. We haven't had any confirmation yet, but if we do get overtime, it will be a 2-lap dash to the checkered flag. As soon as we know for certain whether or whether not we are having an overtime, we will let you know, but I've had no word as of yet. It would be standard protocol, but irregularities sometimes occur. Vladimir Osiortsis is a competitive driver. He's a driver that likes to race, but I do wonder if he'd just like to get that checkered flag. He is a racer's racer, but he also wants to win a championship. Now, wave by has been given to the 56 of Van Leer, and that tells me that we probably are having a overtime, because they wouldn't bother doing the wave around if we weren't going to go racing again. And we have crossed the line without receiving a checkered flag, so I think it's safe to say that as soon as this circuit is ready to go, we are indeed going to hit overtime. So one last twist in the tail, much to the excitement of all parties. It's just been confirmed by Jerome Galpin. It will be a 2-lap overtime 2 laps of racing, double file restart, and that's happening right now because the Tesla has its lights off. We are going to go racing in just a few moments' time. Of course, lest we forget that the 65 and 48 cars both have 5-second penalties applied to them, so this is less than ideal for Davidson and Romagnoli, but there's opportunity for everyone else, and, well, that's bizarre. The 94 and the 14 colliding. Ariana Casoli and Strickler in the 94, they've had a coming together, but I believe we're still going to go green this time. It's a 2x2 rolling start, 2 laps of racing. It's Siortsis on the inside, NASCAR on the outside, Dubek and Gil Linster on the second row as we get started, and Siortsis hugs the inside line as they approach Paddock Hill Bend. He gets into the lead. NASCAR follows suit in second place. A little bit of argy-bargy further back, and oh, Patrick Schauber! Patrick Schauber may have missed a gear or something there. His car stopped accelerating, and Jack Davidson had nowhere to go in that one. The 2 cars collide, the 2 cars off the circuit, and unsurprisingly, we once again go full course yellow. Heavy impact for the 2 drivers there. For Schauber and Davidson, who once again end up under full course yellow. Things were looking a little bit messy up and down the grid there as we got that race started. Of course, you saw Casoli having his incident. Jack Davidson out of the car, which is great to see. I can also see Patrick Schauber just now getting himself towards exiting the car. Certainly saw him moving in the cockpit, and sure enough, here he comes. It's of course, Davidson had a crash yesterday as well in free practice. The team worked until 4 a.m. to get the car back out there for qualifying this morning. And now they find themselves once again in a situation where that car is going to, bare minimum, need a heavy rebuild. And you've just got to wonder how many spare parts they've got, whether or not the chassis has been damaged this time in a way that's not repairable within the confines of the Brands Hatch circuit. We've just got confirmation, unfortunately, that we have to end this race under full course yellow. There is more racing to come here for the live audience at American Speedfest this evening. And so this incident between Patrick Schauber and Jack Davidson unfortunately marks the end of the race. Really unfortunate. Schauber's car stopped accelerating, whether that was a missed gear, whether there was something else at play, I can't say for certain. But what I can say is that the checkered flag is waving, and for the first time at a circuit other than Valencia, Vladimiros Siortsis takes a win. It's his 4th win in EuroNASCAR 2. He takes the checkered flag home first, ahead of Alberto Nasca. 2nd place for Nasca, 3rd place for Gil Linster, or rather for Martin Dubek. My apologies, his transponder is a bit patchy. Martin Dubek did cross the line for 3rd place ahead of Gil Linster. 5th place for Melvin de Groot, 6th for Paul Giuffreau. Roberto Benedetti in 7th, ahead of Claudio Remeggio Capelli, Thomas Dombrowski. Riccardo Romagnoli, I believe, will take 10th place. He did have a 5-second penalty, though. And whether or not that time on my screen reflects that penalty, I'm not too certain. But what we do know is that Vladimiros Siortsis has continued a perfect record of race wins in this 2023 EuroNASCAR 2 season. So he'll have 120 points on the board. that will be a huge boost to his championship aspirations. The number 5 car. .1 seconds clear of Alberto Nasca. Of course, rather meaningless intervals because we finished under full course yellow. It's a shame we couldn't get to the end under green flag conditions, but there are time constraints at play, and also, of course, there was some barriers dislodged there as well. There's probably going to be quite a lengthy recovery of the cars, so it makes perfect sense that the race simply had to be halted early. I think Vladimiros Tsiotsis entered the pit lane erroneously because, of course, he has to head towards Paddock Hill Bend, but instead of going right, he needs to go left because, with a police escort no less, he needs to go to the podium, which for this weekend is on Colin Chapman Way, in amongst all of the American car collections. He'll be greeted not just by Andre Viegold, but by my commentary colleague and this weekend's host of American Speedfest, Mark Werrell. And there is Tsiotsis making his way in the Academy Motorsport car. And I must say a massive congratulations to everyone involved with the team, because after breaking down in quali and then breaking down again after just one corner in the EuroNASCAR Pro race, you wouldn't have gone into this one with a lot of optimism if you're Vladimiros Tsiotsis. You'd have gotten assurances. I'm sure he has faith in his team. But when the car has broken down twice in a day, you do end up going into the next race thinking, yeah, well, I hope it doesn't happen again. And that would have lingered in the back of his head, I'm sure. But the car held together perfectly. Once Tsiotsis got past Nasca, he was home free and really disappeared up the road. Of course, with the race ending with a safety car and a full course yellow, that ate away at his gap, but I'm sure he won't mind that too much, as he once again gets himself on top of the number 5 car's roof. You can see the panels popping out of place a little bit there, but he won't mind that. He has 3 from 3 in the first 3 races of the 2023 EuroNASCAR 2 season. He's also, of course, doing a great job in EuroNASCAR Pro, although his efforts in that category rather stumped today by the non-finish. But in EuroNASCAR 2, which I think is his primary campaign this year, he has a lot to be happy about. And he's about to speak to Andre Viegold and talk us through the race that was here at Brands Hatch.
Thank you so much, Adam. 3 in a row. Wow, what a series of wins you had in the EuroNASCAR 2. Just talk us through the race. How did you make this magical race happen?
You remember what I told you before the start, that from this race is a new start, because this day today didn't start at my best way. But anyway, we are back to the wins. That's the most important. Everything is fine, and after the heavy crash. So thanks God, we did it, and we keep going.
You know exactly what's happening now. Here's the new sticker. You have to place it on the car, please.
Yeah, it's a well-known sticker.
We need to show off Vladimiros, but he is used to it at this point. Getting another sticker on the car. His 3rd of the season already. If he keeps doing well in EuroNASCAR 2 and EuroNASCAR Pro, he is going to run out of car. That is an occupational hazard of being a superstar racing driver in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series. But sticker number 3 from 3 EuroNASCAR 2 races has been applied. Not perfectly, I will add, but it has been applied. And I'm sure he is elated. There's the team celebrating, the Alex Caffey Academy Motorsport team. They're all delighted. I see Gianluca and Andre there chatting too. And Andre, I think, is trying to pick a victim for an interview. I'm not sure it's a particularly willing victim, but He's trying to procure an interview with someone from the Academy Motorsport team. And Andre, I see your persuasive natures have worked. Go on.
Sometimes we need to force also the teams behind the drivers to get in front of the camera. Stefano Bacci, how proud are you of Vladimir Stotzis?
To Vladimir, I'm very happy because this year to me is very promise, and nothing. We have the problem to the throttle cable. We solve the problem, and we see it's very fast. And tomorrow we open an M Pro to 4-point additional to more pass in front. Okay.
All right. Grazie mille, congratulations. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Back to you, Adam.
Thank you very much. I see that the flag of Cyprus is already on Vladimiros Tsiotsis, the Super Cypriot. He wears his flag as a cape, and his performances have been bordering on otherworldly so far. Of course, as we've heard a little bit today, there's the threat of rain more consistently across the day on Sunday. We are expecting a potential for a wet race on Sunday in one, if not both, of the categories. So it'll be interesting to see how Tsiotsis performs in the rain. I'm thinking back to last year, and I'm struggling to remember a wet race. There may have been one. My memory is not infallible. But Tsiotsis wouldn't have raced in the rain in a NASCAR for quite some time, if ever. And that could be an interesting factor. I mean, obviously the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit is rife with challenge anyway. Make it wet and suddenly things get even more difficult. Shall we listen in? Let's listen in. Oh, okay, I don't think we will listen in. Sounds like the audio's gone down. I was just going to see whether Tsiotsis has had anything different to say to Mark Werrell. But Vladimiros, we've already spoken to him, of course, with Andre Viegold. You see here the fans crowded around the victory lane, which is brilliant to see. This is quite a smart little addition to the 10th anniversary of the American Speed Fest, having victory lane here just beside the Garage 56 car that's on display. Not the car that raced at Le Mans last weekend, but one of the prototypes that ran in advance of the Le Mans 24 hours. As you can see then, we're getting a look at some of the highlights. Of course, the race started in dubious circumstances after Nick Schneider's car came to a halt. Some of the cars were a little further back in the pack. Alberto Nasca with a bit of a sideways moment. Whether he got tagged or whether he was just struggling on the brakes, I'm not sure. But what we did see a little later on for NASCAR, of course, was another lockup or two. I think his tyre was worse for wear by the end. Let's go to Andre Viegold.
Thank you so much, Adam. I'm here with Alex Caffey. The team is called Academy Motorsport, Alex Caffey Motorsport. So you're part of the ownership here. How proud are you about the performance of Vladimir Stotzis? 3 races, 3 wins in EuroNASCAR 2.
Oh, it was incredible. This season was starting really amazing since Valencia. But I think that this one is the better winner of Vladimiro, because he started really well. He didn't start on the front row, so it was difficult, because this kind of track is also difficult to overtaking. So, but he have a very good pass, and I think that he make also a very good overtaking just up to the hill, and is incredible. So he's the best win he get in the season for sure. And I think that he's very, very strong. I'm very happy. He's growing up a lot from last year, because last year was a little bit, like you say in the interview, he had 2 pole position, but we don't have any win last year here. Now, I mean, he started 3rd and he won the race, and very, very strong.
You have been also driving one of those cars in the past, and you have been at the American Speed Fest several times. How is it as a driver to win, especially here with so many people cheering for you?
Oh, win here, I think, is like for a Formula One driver to win Monte Carlo. You know, here is a most important. I think where you have a lot of crowd. You know, is incredible, and just to win in front of these fantastic people must be so intensive, so strong for a driver, and I'm very happy for Vladimiro for that.
Grazie mille, congratulations again.
Prego, ciao.
Back to you, Adam.
Great to hear then from Alex Caffey. He mentions the Monaco Grand Prix. Of course, Alex, a former Formula One driver in his own right, so he knows what he's talking about when it comes to F1. Raced for several years in the late 80s into the early 90s. Ironically, his best finish at Monaco, a 4th place for BMS Scuderia Italia in 1989. And great to hear then from Alex Caffey. He has done some racing in EuroNASCAR. He's also taken on challenges such as the Le Mans 24 Hours. A driver very accomplished in his own right and now focused on running that team that he is custodian of. Very diverse career for Alex Caffey, and you see there some young fans repping Vladimiros Siortsis there. They've got the cards, they're cheering on Vladimiros, and that's great to see people picking their driver. Maybe, you know, as the years come on, you know, some of these fans have been here for 2 or 3 Speedfests. They've picked their favourite driver. They've long picked their favourite driver, gotten into EuroNASCAR, and come every year to see their favourites in person. And I think that young man's favourite, undoubtedly, the Cypriot sensation, the Super Cypriot, Vladimiros Siortsis. And we will soon see the rest of the drivers approach the podium. And in fact, already finding one of them, Andre, spectacular timing, my friend.
Yeah, I'm here with Victor Neumann, a true rookie to the EuroNASCAR 2. You've been in the Club Challenge, the regularity test before. You won that in Valencia. Now you're in EuroNASCAR 2 and a 2nd place in the Rookie Trophy.
Yeah, really, really happy with that. Plenty of people to thank. They'll recognize each other, so I won't say anybody. But thanks to my partner, my parents, my friends who are there. It's beautiful, beautiful race. Loved every bit of it.
How was it to be in a competitive race with all those drivers with a lot of experience in the EuroNASCAR cosmos at a track like Brands Hatch?
So I had to catch up, obviously, as I don't have the same experience as them, and they're all very, very good drivers, I have to say that, and it's very competitive. In the car was so hot, I almost fainted, I have to say it. Need to work on my fitness, but yeah, no, just so much fun, so good.
All right, thank you so much, merci beaucoup.
Pleasure, de rien.
Back to you, Adam.
Great to hear from Victor Neumann there. He's happy with his result, 2nd within the Rookie Trophy, and delighted for him. Another driver coming up through the Club Challenge, the regularity tests that run on Friday here in EuroNASCAR. And I believe interviews still ongoing for Circuit Comms. We will have the podium presentation shortly, not just the overall, but the Legends, the Rookie and the Lady Trophy classifications. There's the helmet of Vladimiros Siortsis, and there is the rather sweaty frame of Melvin de Groot, who is with Andre Vigold. In fact, you've got 2 drivers for the price of 1. Go on, Andre.
Thank you so much, Adam. Yes, we have the trophy winners. We start with the Rookie Trophy winner in this race. Thomas Tombowski, just talk us through your race.
Oh, it was difficult this weekend, but I was learning the track. It's not an easy one. Hard race with a lot of laps, so it's exhausted, but I'm happy.
Thank you so much. The Legend Trophy winner, Melvin de Groot from the Netherlands. How was your race?
Well, it's nice to be back here. I must say, I like this area. Well, I started 7th. It was very difficult to overtake. The car was not in excellent form, but so I was staying at 7th place, and there was an accident, and I thought, hey, a restart. So I got to be careful, and I need to be there on the spot. So yeah, then I managed to go from 7th to 4th. So that is nice. So 4th finish is good. I'm happy.
All right. Dankjewel. Merci beaucoup. And congratulations to you, Adam. Back.
Interesting there, isn't it? Melvin was seemingly a lot more interested in his overall result there relative to his class order finish. That is the case for a lot of drivers. Ultimately, you can take a class win and still have someone in front of you, and that just doesn't really gel with the racing driver mindset. I believe the podium ceremonies are about to get underway. Mark Werrell will welcome our drivers onto the stage.
For Martin Dubeck. Well done to Martin, former EuroNASCAR 2 champion, heads onto the 3rd step of the podium. In 2nd position, Alberto NASCAR. Well done to Alberto. It's the 2nd place on the trot, but it's the top step of the podium. His first win at Brands Hatch. Vladimir Choices heads onto the top step of the podium. Huge leap from Vladimir Choices, shakes the hands of his fellow competitors, heads onto the top step of the podium. And now please show your appreciation and respect for the national anthem of the winning driver. Cypriot national anthem for Vladimiris Joitsis. And now we will ask our hostesses, first of all, to present our 3rd place driver, Martin Dubeck.
So there you go. The Panu sparkling wine champagne will be presented along with the trophies to our winning drivers now. Martin Dubeck receiving his 3rd place trophy. You note there that Vladimir Osiortis had to wait a little bit for his national anthem. He started to look a little bit nervous. We had the Italian anthem played out earlier on. I dare say the Cypriot national anthem hasn't been played here at Brands quite so many times. But how great it must be for Vladimir Osiortis to continue to represent motorsport and represent his nation in motorsport in this manner. The successes that Osiortis is having this year are really quite extraordinary, and he's now going to get the opportunity to spray the champagne with NASCAR and Dubeck. Congratulations to all 3 parties. Alberto NASCAR with more solid points on the board, albeit again finishing behind Osiortis. He's nose deep in his head that needs to change. Alberto NASCAR will be keen to try and beat Osiortis tomorrow, but that is tomorrow's problem. So for now, he will celebrate his 2nd place. Great to hear him saying hello to his friends and family in the interview before we went racing, and poses for the pictures along with Dubeck and Osiortis, our race winner. So last year's runner-up, 2021's champion, and 2023's current clean sweep holder on the podium there. Vladimir Osiortis with 3 from 3 in this season so far. Legend Trophy will be next up. And we'll be starting with Claudio Remeggio Capelli. Legend Trophy for drivers over 40. Claudio Remeggio Capelli was both a rookie and a legend last year. He is now into his 2nd full season, and very much showing his maturity in his drives as well. Of course, he did have a bit of a moment with Mikael Bleekemolen in this race. Benedetti taking 2nd, and Melvin de Groot finishing at the top. We heard from him, and Melvin Certainly a driver who has fun, excited to see him on the top step. He's a tall bloke anyway, but when you put him on the top step of the podium, I mean, look at poor Claudio Remeggio Capelli. As if he sat next to a basketball player. Claudio Remeggio Capelli receiving the third place trophy, and again a bottle of Panu for his evening, should he wish to have a tipple or two. Roberto Benedetti taking second place. And I think we've got young fans presenting some of these trophies as well, which is a really nice touch. Some fans getting the opportunity to see their heroes up close and person and congratulate them on a fun race. That is another nice touch that we get here at American Speed Fest. This podium in the heart of the fan area. So there are lots of fans overlooking these podium ceremonies at the moment, and Melvin de Groot will head back to paddock with a smile on his face. I think he and Claudio Remeggio Capelli are probably discussing the when and the where for when they have a glass of their Panu bottles, knowing those two. Rookie podium is next. Two more podiums before the end. Igor Seguro heads up onto the podium third. That's his first podium. Victor Neumann, who we heard from, of course, he's second there. And Thomas Dombrowski takes the rookie win. He'll be pretty happy with that. I know he's an analytical driver. I was saying earlier on during the pro race, he really wasn't complimentary of himself, particularly in Valencia, but I think he's got a lot to be proud of at a circuit as technical and challenging as Brands, in a race that was fairly chaotic, to make sure that he crossed the line to win the rookie trophy classification. And Thomas Dombrowski receiving the trophy. Again, young fans being integrated into this podium ceremony, which is a lovely touch as they pose for pictures. Thomas Dombrowski sharing the top step with his driving cohorts, and we will have Arianna Casoli on the podium momentarily to receive the Lady Trophy honours. Casoli still the only female entrant in EuroNASCAR 2 this year. The likes of Alina Leubneger, of course, have moved up to the EuroNASCAR Pro this year. Dorchikova not here this weekend, sadly, as Arianna Casoli hot-foots it onto the podium. And she's seemingly quite jovial today. Of course, we saw her have a bit of a moment just before the overtime start, and the young fans joining her on the podium. That is lovely. Three youngsters who may well be catching this racing bug. If you speak to racing drivers as a civilian, you soon find yourself looking at how much helmets cost and things of that nature. So who knows, these might be future EuroNASCAR participants joining Arianna Casoli on the podium. She receives the Lady Trophy honours then as we take a look back at the highlights of this race. Of course, it was Dubek on the front row alongside Alberto Nasca when we went racing. And that was a nasty moment for NASCAR under braking into the first corner. I called it as contact at the time. Looking back at it again, I'm not convinced there was contact there. It was a poor start for Nick Schneider, who, of course, had issues on the first lap and would ultimately end up stranded on the inside of Clark Curve. We had one off in the gravel at Paddock Hill Bend as everyone continued to try and find their spots, but of course it wouldn't be too long before safety car was declared to collect Nick Schneider's car. Lockups aplenty for Alberto Nasca in the first few laps of the race, just maybe struggling to get the tyres and brakes up to temperature, and that being the net result, as the 46 car from Marco Stipp Motorsport of Schneider was indeed towed back into the paddock. He'll be hoping for better fortunes next time. When we got back underway, NASCAR briefly retained the lead. However, Vladimiros Tsiotsis would soon manage to challenge. He was on the outside of the 2x2 rolling start, and on the second flying lap post safety car, he got a good run at Paddock Hill, launched the car up Halewoods Hill, and was in the lead by the time they got to Druids. And that was a lead that Tsiotsis would ultimately never give up. Dufresne and Schauber were side by side. As Paul Dufresne recovered himself back into the top 5, he lost out in the safety car restart. We had some side-by-side action further back among the Speedhouse cars. Good to see the Speedhouse drivers running in tandem as Tsiotsis started to weave his way through the lap traffic. Of course, he was building a lead, and a significant one at that, but the race would be disrupted, and that would ebb away his advantage. Side-by-side racing between Dubeck and Linster. Linster was briefly trying to get up into second place to try and get past Alberto Nasca, but then Martin Dubeck found a way alongside and ultimately passed Linster. Linster got held up trying to drive around Nasca, and he lost out in the process. Bit of a close moment between Max Lanza and Thomas Dombrowski as they made their way past Ariana Casoli. A closer moment between Mikael Bleekemolen and Claudio Remeggio Capelli, and Bleekemolen stopped in near enough the same place as Nick Schneider in the first laps of the race. That would ultimately lead to a safety car, in addition to the fact that Thomas Tuffel ended up stopped at Graham Hill Bend after that spin, and the 55 are also going off in sympathy. As we got ready to go into overtime, there was a collision before we even got to the start between Casoli and Strickler, the American, and then unfortunately Patrick Schauber woed up coming up Halewoods Hill, give Davidson absolutely nowhere to go. Jack Davidson ploughed into the back of Patrick Schauber. Both of them exited stage left. Thankfully, both drivers exited their cars under their own steam. But if you're Marco Stitt Motorsport, after building that car back up until 4 a.m. yesterday, a daunting prospect to potentially have to do the same again. Vladimiros Tsiotsis, though, no such problems for Academy Motorsport. He trundled the car home under safety car conditions, or under full course yellow conditions, to win the first of 2 races for EuroNASCAR 2 at American Speedfest. We'll be back again on Sunday with 2 more races for EuroNASCAR Pro and EuroNASCAR 2. But for now, have a good evening.